Hey guys, welcome back. BDC Gear here. We're back with Season 4, Episode 23 of our weekly Q&A&T videos. Our first question comes from Luke Jennings, and they say, "Love the videos a lot. I'm still a semi-new player, and I'm wondering a few things, so I'll just list them off. 1. How do you get so many energy charges?"
Okay, so maybe we'll answer them one at a time, because one of the things I actually hate when... Alright, so the times we've been to convention, and somebody says, "Hey, I've got a 2-part question." And they ask a whole bunch of stuff, and they're sort of related and they're sort of not. And I feel like it's a little bit unfair and unreasonable to expect somebody to actually put some thought into an answer and then still remember your other question and not get sidetracked. So the first one, how do you get so many energy recharges? Alright, so you either save them or you buy them.
Yeah, and in our opinion, buying energy recharges is one of the best ways to support Injustice, just because it seems to be the least kind of totally off in terms of value for price, where you're paying to play a little more of the team that you want to play with, basically.
Right, and it's really granular, right? Whatever you think the game is worth, you spend that money. That's what we do. Whatever you think the game is worth, that's where you put in your money, and, you know, to me, it's actually... How do I want to put it? It's a purchase that actually makes sense. Because you're getting to play more.
And the credits are all pretty much garbage as far as a cost for credit. So that's what we recommend. And honestly, I mean, at this point, we probably haven't spent the amount of money we think the game is worth in in-app purchases just because of how much we've ended up playing it. But yeah.
So here's the thing too. At the beginning when I first started playing it, I could not bring myself to spend them because I thought at some point I might want to use those energy recharges.
Like 1 billion.
So you know what it's like? It's like the rare candies in Pokemon. And I'd find them, and you know, you stick the name rare in front of it, and all of a sudden I don't want to use them.
And it's like, well, you would only ever want to use them on level 99 to level 100 because that's the most efficient. But then if you just do it that way, you never actually end up using it.
That's right, and they're not that rare. So I think when I first started playing the game, I had a few hundred energy recharges before I actually started playing with them.
Question 2 is, what 4-star or any good gears can you get from campaign?
Okay, sorry, you know what? The other thing I forgot to say as far as practical advice goes, when you do the challenge reset glitch and you do the challenge over and over and over again, you can get free energy recharges at different fights inside the challenge too.
That's true.
And as a reward potentially if you play multiplayer. Like as practical advice, that was sort of like the... Earlier we were talking about the general kind of stuff.
Alright, sorry. 2, 4-star or any good gears you can get from campaign.
So from the campaign, alright, so the nomenclature really has to change, right? I haven't seen a really great way to refer them that's obvious and clear, because they used to call them common, uncommon, rare, and legendary, whatever. But the way they define it is basically... gears start off as 1, 2, 3, or 4-star, and they go up 1 level. So the ambiguity is when you refer to 3-star gear, you're referring to a gear that starts at 3-star
or ends at 3 stars.
Right.
So you're working with either a 2-star evolving into 3-star gear or a 3-star evolving into 4-star gear, and both of them spend part of their life cycle as a 3-star gear.
So maybe what we should do is actually call it like 2.5-star. I don't know if that works. Maybe it'll catch on. We should start doing that. But all right, so there are actually very few places to get really good gear. I think late on the 8th stage somewhere, one of them when you complete the ladder of it, it's either the last one or the bonus battle. You get the 4.5-star gear, the gauntlets that becomes the gauntlets of Azrael. And from the gear locker, the only 4.5-star gear is Ra's al Ghul's dagger, which becomes Ra's al Ghul's scimitar.
And there's a lot of 3.5-star gear, like the character-specific gear.
Right. And those are actually really, really good. All right, and maybe here's the thing. We've got at least 4 teams worth of footage finishing a couple of ultimate ladders in multiplayer online. And the problem is figuring out, finding time to make them into videos, and second, figuring out which one to do next. And I'm really tempted to do the next one where another off-the-shelf team, so off-the-shelf meaning guys that you can buy directly from the store immediately, with only gear that you can get from the gear locker. So basically anything that you can get with credits from the beginning, you don't have to do anything special. And it's probably more...
credits and time, basically.
It's definitely more important now with Survivor being screwed up for so long. So anybody who started playing Injustice from about November of last year on hasn't had a chance to get anything more than the Suicide Squad gears,
Yeah.
which kind of sucks.
So there we go. And the third question is, what gears should I use for top tier gold common cards? And that's the third and final question.
Right. And the schmarmy answer is basically use the best gears that you have for the style that you want to play. I'll stick a link here to way back when I put together a Google Doc for all the gears
Yeah.
at the time.
Or Google Sheets, technically.
Oh, I guess so, yeah, sure.
Technically.
Yeah, that's right. It is a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And I broke it down into the categories of boosts that you could get, so you could compare them directly and figure out which gears were the best. And that's how, I mean, we knew already, but that's how it became really obvious that the best Special 2 gear, for some purposes, was actually a 2.5-star gear, which was a Demon Blade, because it's the only one that gives you a crit chance and a damage boost on Special 2. But, so what it does include... Alright, so at some point we had to stop maintaining it because it was a list of all the non-legendary and some of the legendary. It got really hard to maintain the list once there was a whole bunch of new legendary 4.5-star gears that started having brand new abilities that weren't there before, so it would have been a little bit harder to manage to start creating new columns every time.
Yeah.
For gears that didn't really have a sort of a point of comparison. So that's probably going to be useful to you because then you can decide how you want to play. We've always talked about the archetypes, right?
Yeah.
The basic damage dealer,
Special specialist,
and the tank.
Yeah.
And so, and I guess the other one that we don't talk about as much is usually the support character, where they have an ability that's good for the team.
Yeah, but that normally has to be wrapped up in something else, unless you're planning on really not using them at all. And then even then, you basically put them in as a tank.
That's the easiest one, right?
Yeah.
But as a tank, it doesn't matter what else they do. If their attack is crappy, if their specials are awful.
And even if their health is just okay. If you gear them up to be a tank, to do really good on blocking, if they have really crappy stats and you gear them up basically just to block, the thing about that is you're never worried, you never accidentally do something other than blocking with them.
Right.
So you're a lot less likely to take more damage than you're expecting because you're in and you're blocking 100% of the time and then you're out. So
the main weakness of that though is that there's unblockable attacks.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just playing Arkham Knight Batgirl again, and she's got unblockable chance on her specials, and then there's all the gears that give you unblockable chance on basic attacks.
Yeah.
And it's awful. It's actually more useful on the AI, on the defensive team that you're facing, because they always complete their combos. So they have more hits to potentially get an unblockable hit in.
Yeah.
So it actually is better for them than you, but in general, I still actually like unblockable gears.
So there you go. Our next question comes from Richard Thomas, and they say, have you been banned on any of your test accounts? Yes.
Yes. So many times. I mean, the commitment that you make when you test glitches is that you know absolutely you will be losing accounts at some point.
Yeah.
And that's not even, I mean, that's the obvious part, but what's awful is I was originally banned on the first Injustice account I created that I played a lot. It was the first season. It was either, I can't remember who came first. It was either Cassandra Came Batgirl or Ares, their first season. And I happened to accidentally, this was not even intentional, I was playing on two devices at the same time.
Yeah.
I was logged into one device, and I wanted to switch over because the battery was running low.
Yeah.
Charged it, played on the other one, and got suspended.
Yeah, for using multiple devices simultaneously.
Right, so that might, if anybody wonders why we have such a what's the word I'm looking for when you talk about you really want to avoid it. We have a
like
real,
almost scorched earth policy.
Well, something like that, but that we really try to avoid any glitches that involve using two devices.
Yeah.
Because we're a little bit gun shy, and it might not be totally reasonable, but that was, to me, that was like the worst account suspension I've ever had.
We almost gave up on Injustice.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that was before we really did any kind of big videos and stuff. And
yeah.
that would have changed the last couple of years. I mean, it's not like we spend a huge amount of time playing Justice, but it sort of defines a little bit of what we do. It's been a nice regular routine, actually.
Yeah, for sure. So there we go. The answer is yes, many a time. And there are some glitches that we tested out at one time or another where we, I think, basically used the equivalent of a burner count almost, where it was just enough content to be able to test it out, because we fully expected either having it banned or the glitch doing something bad to the account that we wouldn't want to.
I want to talk about this a little bit too. So there's one particular glitch where you can duplicate an account, and it's not really that practical because the way an account, and I'm not sure whether it's because of the way the account is marked or because the reasons why you got an account banned in the first place don't change just because you duplicate it.
Yeah.
But I've seen too many comments about people, you know, trying to use that to fix a banned account.
Yeah.
And they just get banned right away. So I've used it in principle when I need extra accounts that actually has content in it to test it. But I always do it knowing that if I get one banned, because there's almost, I don't know what it is exactly, but there's something in each account that's marked off as being unique. Maybe almost like, again, Pokemon, where you not only would have a name, but it would have a...
Like trainer ID.
Yeah, a number associated with it, right? Yeah. So that when you duplicate an account, that ID marks it as being exactly the same. So it's at this point, a theoretical risk. But if you duplicate an account, if any of the duplicates or the original account gets banned, there's always a chance that they could easily ban the other ones because they have like a common DNA.
Yeah, they're linked somehow.
Right, and you'll know this because if you ever try to log out from one into another, nothing happens. It doesn't ask you, no matter what level you've got those two accounts at, whether one you've gone further and added another 100 characters, it never asks you if you want to keep this account or switch to the other one that you're logging into.
Yeah.
So that's the other reason, I guess. That's just in case you were wondering why this is one of those things that we've never touched on before, because there's such a theoretical danger, and I don't know that you'd actually be able to suss it out before you got to the point where you realized you were actually screwed.
Yeah, and I mean, we've never touched on how to do it before. We've talked about it a decent chunk. We've definitely talked about it before, more than once. But so there you go. Our next question comes from Peak Nuisance, and they say, is it worth promoting characters past Elite 7? Love your videos, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Sounds great.
Yeah. And I guess there's a long answer and a short answer.
Yeah, the short answer is it depends.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes it does. Offline it does, absolutely, right? Because the stronger you are, it doesn't matter how strong you are, you're going to be facing the same characters no matter what in the offline story mode. So, yeah, you promote them higher, just gets easier to finish it. So, if that's what matters to you, then sure.
Yeah, and when stats scale, it becomes a lot more kind of granular, whether or not it's worth leading past Elite 7. To get maximum battle points? Maybe. Depends on how your matchups are going to change, how the passives are going to change, and the gear scores are going to change of the people that you're fighting against. So you'll get more battle points if you're sub-maximal, but you'll also get closer and closer to fighting top-tier teams. Yeah. If you're talking about Survivor, it doesn't matter quite as much. Leading them past Elite 7 is basically good or bad depending on how you want to balance your sets of characters so their stats are closer to the same.
Right, so a good example of that is the most recent video we did with an off-the-shelf team, which in my mind is the lowest tier kind of golds.
Yeah.
Where we had, it was, who's the star? It was Cyborg, Doomsday, and I believe, I'd have to take another look. I can't even remember who it was because the other person didn't matter. Because Doomsday really was the star, where he was just totally rocking special too. Even Nightwing, New 52 Nightwing.
Yeah.
Right, and
there you go. We got it at the same time.
Yeah, and that team did not get max battle points for every fight, but it got it after the first fight. Yeah. And you can tell, even though you didn't see the assignation of battle points based on the bonus at the end, which was 20,400, I think, instead of 21,000. You're looking at 5,000 battle points, except for the first fight out of all that 7.
Yeah.
And they're not that great, like, as far as stacks go. Doomsday's a pretty good one. And I guess the other question is, we're assuming that we're talking about golds, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're playing with a bronze or a silver or a gold or a super gold, super golds, like to the really top stat, high level golds, it might be worth it because then you're already facing, once you're at Elite 7, you're already facing a bunch of teams with all the stalling, delaying gears. Like,
yeah, and Elite 10 level 60 anyways.
Right. So in that case, you get an advantage. When you're talking
Yeah,
just...
if you can't beat them, join them.
Exactly. You just need to do more damage because they're already carrying Astro Harness. You're already slowed down.
Yeah, they're already carrying Astro Harness, and their stats are already as high as it gets. There's no way that you're gonna bump yourself up a bracket into fighting stronger guys. You're fighting the strongest people already,
Right.
just by the nature of your team. So you might as well.
Yeah, bronze and silver on the other hand, I think it definitely is worth maxing out at least one team so that you can get through challenges faster, right? Because every challenge, there's one ladder that's bronze only, one ladder that's silver only.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's not going to hurt you in any other way because even if you play them in other places where it scales up, like Survivor or Multiplayer Online, you're still not high enough that you take yourself to... So in Survivor, that you can't get the advantage of switching to a silver, and in Multiplayer Online that you end up getting matched against golds that are just way too high, right? When you're starting off at silver or bronze. But in general, most of the regular golds that...
And also it's easier to Elite 10 them.
Oh, that's true.
Right? It's easier to get them through Breakthrough, it's easier to get the extra copies, it's easier to do everything.
Breakthrough events.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's actually really, really easy to get 1 team, 2 team, 3 teams of bronze characters or silver characters, enough that you never need to do energy recharges if you don't want to during the challenge.
That's true.
Enough that you can just cycle through them. And because it's so easy to get them through Breakthrough, it almost seems like a waste to not.
Right. Yeah. So it's those middle golds, the lower sort of not such great stat golds, that I think it probably makes the most sense to leave at around Elite 7.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get the most benefit out of them anyways. Although at the beginning when you start the game and you don't have the really good challenge golds, you might want to decide to blow one team just to get you through the offline battle, the single player story mode.
Yeah, and another thing for the bronzes and silvers, I know it's a bit silly and it's kind of pointless, but that completionist, right? It gives you some extra levels to grind out. It gives you some extra, you know, elites to use, some extra like copies of cards to acquire. Buying bronze packs are always kind of fun because you end up getting like a decent chunk of your money back anyways. Yeah. If you want to, once you have all the support cards and everything. But yeah, so there we go. The answer is depends, but there's a lot of different situations that you have to balance, and I think one of the important things is figuring out, like, guessing what context you're going to use a character in.
Right, because sometimes when it's early on, it's hard to know who you're going to really enjoy playing with.
Yeah, so that's important. Unless they're really high stats, I would say generally, when in doubt, you're gonna want to wait until you have a certain amount of comfort with the card and know that you either want to play them or don't want to play them, and how that is. That way, you don't accidentally elite them really high and make it harder for yourself in online multiplayer.
Yeah, I almost wish there was the ability to downgrade somebody.
Oh yeah, like just to. Almost like if once you elited them to a certain level, you could like flip a dial and spin it up or down to put them at whatever elite level you wanted to have them at, up to the level that you already had.
That would be so good.
Yeah.
And I guess it's probably a good thing that we pulled out one of the questions that was originally planned for this, that was from Manish Suresh, and everybody's already seen that question because we used that as the starting point for our New 52 Nightwing, Doomsday, and Cyborg team.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think if there's anything else we wanted to add to that. It's mainly actually, it'll be easier to see when we've got the other team that has non-legendary gear that's all, well, except for Razalgo Scimitar, that is also off the shelf, that finishes the fights so much faster, mainly by being augmented. So to me, the augmentations almost matter more. Crit chance and crit damage augmentations, at least, almost matter more than the gear if you plan it right.
Because you can get some swipe combos or tap combos, even separate from specials, that just deal so much damage.
Yeah. All right, so we've got one more fight left. I want to point out too, actually, before we even start thanking our Patreons, that, well, actually, not before. thank you to our patrons on Patreon, because we've actually paid off almost all the cost of this microphone that we're using right now.
Yeah, so we're currently sitting in front of the blue Yeti mic, and right next to it we've got our old blue Snowball, our orange blue Snowball.
And so starting September, if you're still hearing us talk on these microphones and creating videos, you'll know that it was because of this that we were still able to do it, because we're going to be doing it separately.
Yeah.
In physically separate locations, each of us using a microphone, and trying to figure out a way, if we can manage it, to keep on making these videos.
I think that'll be a fun challenge once we start. It's definitely going to be more work, but as far as challenges go, I think it's going to be a fun challenge to the viewer if we can see if they can guess the first video that we do, who's on the Yeti and who's on the Snowball. I'm sure people are going to be able to do it.
Yeah, I think so.
Because the audio quality, I'm not going to say anything other than it's noticeably different, but not like hugely noticeably different. There's I can tell.
Yeah, it's funny how much our workflow has changed since the very beginning.
Yeah.
And I was really sort of resistant to any kind of post-production stuff because of the time it would take. And I'm actually happy with where we've gone. And we have, for a big chunk of that, we'd like to thank you, the viewers, for continuing to watch with us. And a special thank you to our patrons on Patreon.
Yeah, these mics have actually been a really good purchase because I use them a bunch. I use them for other stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So, huge thank you to our patrons. We have Alberto Jr. Camarillo, who is supporting us at the top tier, Last Word. We've got iProfit, who is supporting us at the Your Message Here tier. And we have Lane and Daniel Simonson, who are both supporting us on the credited level.
And I just want to say, because we wanted to practice saying his name, a thank you to Laszlo Georgiades.
Yeah.
Who also supports us on a level that's normally not credited.
Yeah, it's the $1 tier where you haven't bought us saying your name, but we're thankful enough for you that we will just say your name every once in a while.
And your name is just cool.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much for watching.
We'll see you next time. Komoda.